I still hear my brother's voice that night. Where were you, Aaron? Not are you okay? Not we'll find Liam. Just that question. Cold. Sharp. Accusing. My son had been gone for 3 hours. 3. I was pacing the living room, calling his name over and over like it would bring him back. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. The front door was still open. His shoes were gone. His backpack was still here. And somehow, I was already the problem. My mother, Diane, stood behind Caleb, quiet, watching me like I was a stranger. You said you were home, Caleb added, stepping closer. But no one saw you. I felt something break inside me. I went to take the trash out, I said. 2 minutes. That's all. Caleb laughed under his breath. 2 minutes is all it takes, he said. That's when the police lights flashed outside. Relief should have hit me. Instead, dread did. Because as the officers walked in, Caleb turned to them and said, I think you should talk to him first. And just like that, I wasn't just a father with a missing son. I was a suspect. The first question the officer asked me wasn't about Liam. It was about me. Mr. Carter, can you explain your movements tonight? Movements. Like I was already lying. I tried to stay calm. I told them everything. The trash. The open door. The silence when I came back. The panic. But every time I spoke, Caleb interrupted. He's been stressed lately. He forgets things. He gets overwhelmed. I turned to him. Why are you saying that? He didn't even look at me. I'm just helping, he said. Helping. My mother nodded like everything he said made sense. And that hurt more than anything. The officer's tone changed after that. Softer but not kinder. Careful. Like I might snap. Did Liam ever run away before? No. Any arguments today? No. Anyone who might want to hurt him? I opened my mouth, and Caleb answered first. He's been having trouble coping since the divorce. I froze. That wasn't relevant. That wasn't even true. But the officer wrote it down anyway. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about finding Liam anymore. Something else was happening. Something I didn't understand yet. And I was already losing control. The next morning, everything felt different. Quieter. Colder. But the worst part? People weren't looking at me with sympathy anymore. They were watching me. Neighbors stood outside pretending to talk. Phones in hand. Eyes on me. I overheard one whisper. That's him. Him. Like I had already done something. Inside, Caleb had taken over. He was talking to officers. Coordinating searches. Answering questions that should have been mine. My own house didn't feel like mine anymore. Why are you doing this? I asked him quietly. He shrugged. Someone has to keep things together. I can do that. He smiled, but it wasn't kind. Can you? That one word hit harder than anything else. Because suddenly, I wasn't sure how I looked to everyone else. Tired. Shaking. Desperate. Guilty. My mother pulled me aside. You need to rest, Aaron, she said softly. You're not thinking clearly. I'm fine. She hesitated, then added, Caleb is just trying to help. Don't make this harder. Harder? My son was missing, and somehow I was the one making things worse. That's when I noticed something. Caleb had Liam's tablet. I hadn't seen it since last night. Where did you get that? I asked. He paused, just for a second, then said, it was in his room. But I had already checked his room. Twice. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a minute. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Liam's empty bed. But what kept me awake wasn't just fear. It was Caleb. That moment with the tablet kept replaying in my head. So at 3 a.m., I got up and went into Liam's room again. Slow. Careful. Like I was afraid of what I might find. Everything looked the same. Except one thing. The drawer by his bed was slightly open. It hadn't been before. Inside was nothing unusual. But the dust line told a different story. Something had been taken. Recently. My chest tightened. When I walked back into the hallway, Caleb was there. Just standing. Watching me. Can't sleep? He asked. I didn't answer. I just looked at him. Then I said, "You were in his room." He didn't deny it. "I was checking for clues." "At 3 a.m.? He stepped closer. "You're not thinking straight, Aaron." There it was again. That tone. That quiet control. "You need to trust me," he added. But something inside me snapped. Because I realized something I didn't want to believe. I didn't trust him. Not anymore. And for the first time since Liam disappeared, I wondered if I should be afraid of my own brother. By the second day, the search had grown bigger. Volunteers, police teams, drones. Everyone was looking for Liam. Everyone except Caleb. At least not really. He stayed close to the house. On the phone. Giving updates. Taking control. "Someone needs to manage this," he said when I asked why he wasn't out there. But that didn't sit right with me. Because this wasn't about control. This was about finding my son. I joined one of the search groups myself. We walked through the woods behind the house, calling Liam's name, checking every corner. And that's when something strange happened. One of the volunteers turned to me and said, "Your brother told us to focus on this area." I frowned. "This area?" "Yeah." He said, "Liam likes it here." I shook my head. "No, he doesn't." The man looked confused. "That's not what we were told." My stomach dropped. Caleb was directing the search. To the wrong place. Why? That question stayed with me the entire time. And when I got back home, I confronted him. "You're sending people in the wrong direction." He didn't even blink. "I'm doing what I think is best." "No, you're controlling everything." His eyes darkened. "Because you can't." That hit harder than it should have. But before I could respond, a police car pulled up, and the officer stepped out with something in his hand. Liam's jacket. Found miles away, where Caleb had sent them. They laid Liam's jacket on the table like it meant something. Like it proved something. The officer looked at me carefully. "Do you recognize this?" My throat tightened. "Of course I do. It's his." "Where would he wear this?" "Everywhere. It's his favorite." The officer nodded slowly, then said, "It was found near the highway." Highway? That didn't make sense. Liam hated loud places. He never went near the road alone. But Caleb stepped in again. "He's been acting differently lately," he said. I turned to him. "Stop speaking for him. I'm just telling the truth." "No, you're guessing." The officer watched us both, then asked, "Was Liam upset about anything recently?" Before I could answer, Caleb said, "He's been scared of being alone." That wasn't true. Not even close. But the officer wrote it down anyway. And suddenly, a new story was forming. One where Liam ran away. One where I failed him. I looked at the jacket again. Something felt wrong. Too clean. Too placed. Like it wasn't lost. Like it was left there. On purpose. And the worst part? Caleb didn't look surprised when they found it. Not even a little. Late that night, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something told me to pick up. "Hello." Silence. Then a voice. Low. Shaky. "I think I saw your son." My heart stopped. "Where?" "A man, he was walking with him. Near the bus station." "A man? What did he look like?" "I couldn't see clearly. But your son looked quiet. Like he didn't want to be there." My grip tightened on the phone. "Did you call the police?" I was scared. "Stay there. I'm coming." I grabbed my keys. But as I opened the door, Caleb was there. "Where are you going?" "I got a lead." "What kind of lead?" I hesitated, then told him. And something strange happened. He didn't react the way I expected. No urgency. No shock. Just a slow nod. "You shouldn't go alone," he said. "I'm not waiting." He stepped aside. But as I walked past him, he said something that made me freeze. "Be careful what you believe, Aaron." I turned back. What does that mean? But he was already walking away. And for the first time, I felt like I wasn't chasing my son anymore. I was walking into something else. I drove faster than I ever had in my life. The bus station was only 15 minutes away, but it felt like hours. Every second mattered. Every second felt like I was closer to Liam. But when I got there was nothing. No boy, no man, no witness. I called the number back. It was disconnected. My chest tightened. This wasn't just bad luck. This felt planned. I asked around anyway. Showed Liam's photo. One worker hesitated. "I think I saw someone like that earlier," she said. "Where did they go?" She pointed toward the exit. "Got into a car." "What kind?" "I don't know. Dark. Maybe gray." That wasn't enough. It wasn't anything. But it was all I had. When I got back home, Caleb was waiting. "Well?" he asked. I shook my head. "Nothing." He sighed. "False hope is dangerous." I stared at him. "How did you know it was false?" He didn't answer right away. Then said, "Because real leads don't disappear like that." But that wasn't true. Real leads do disappear. Unless someone makes sure they do. And that's when a thought hit me. What if that call was never meant to help me? The next morning, my mother sat me down. Her face looked tired, but her eyes were firm. "Aaron, we need to talk." I already knew what was coming. "You're exhausting yourself," she said. "You're chasing things that aren't real." I got a lead. "You got a distraction." That word hurt more than anything. "Liam is out there," I said. "I can feel it." She hesitated, then said something that broke me. "Or maybe he ran away because he was unhappy." I stared at her. "Unhappy? With me?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to, because Caleb stepped in. "We just want to consider all possibilities." All possibilities, including the one where I was the reason my son was gone. I stood up. "You believe him?" My mother looked away. "I believe we need to be realistic." Realistic. That was her word for it. But I heard something else. She had already chosen a side. And it wasn't mine. As I walked away, I realized something painful. I wasn't just losing my son. I was losing my family too. And I still didn't know why. I started writing everything down. Every detail. Every conversation. Every lie. At first, it felt pointless. But then, patterns started to appear. Caleb always spoke first. Caleb always guided the narrative. Caleb always redirected attention. It wasn't random. It was controlled, careful, intentional. I went back to the beginning. The night Liam disappeared. Something clicked. Caleb had arrived too fast. Before the police. Before anyone else. "How did you get here so quickly?" I asked him later. He shrugged. "You called me." "No, I didn't." He paused, just for a second, then said, "Mom did." I turned to her. She nodded slowly, but something about it felt off, like they had already agreed on that answer. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was something bigger, something planned. And if I was right, then Liam's disappearance wasn't just bad luck. It was connected to them. But I still didn't know how, or why. I waited until Caleb left the house. Then I went straight to his room. My heart was pounding. I knew this was wrong, but I didn't care anymore. I needed answers. Liam's tablet was on the desk, unlocked, like he wasn't worried about it. That was his mistake. I opened the messages. First, nothing. Just games, videos, normal stuff. Then I found a hidden folder. My hands started shaking. Inside were voice notes, short ones. I pressed play. Liam's voice filled the room. "Uncle Caleb said it's a surprise." My chest tightened. Next one. "He said don't tell Dad yet." Couldn't breathe. Next one. "I don't like the man he showed me." I froze. What man? My mind raced. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't random. Caleb had been talking to Liam, planning something, and Liam was scared. That's when I heard the door open behind me. "You shouldn't be in here." I turned slowly. Caleb was standing there, watching me, and this time, he wasn't smiling. We stood there in silence, the tablet still in my hand, the truth sitting between us. "What is this?" I asked. Caleb didn't answer. "Who is the man Liam talked about?" Still nothing. I stepped closer. "You knew something, didn't you?" He exhaled slowly, then said, "You're not ready to understand." That made my blood boil. My son is missing. I don't need to be ready. I need the truth. He looked at me, almost calmly, then said something that changed everything. "You were never supposed to find that." My heart dropped. Find what? But he didn't answer. Instead, he walked past me, like the conversation was over, like none of this mattered. But it did, because now I knew. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was proof. Proof that Caleb was involved. But I still didn't know how deep it went, or what he had done. And as I stood there, shaking, one thought kept repeating in my head. What if Liam didn't just disappear? What if he was taken? With help? Something changed in me that night. Fear was gone. In its place was clarity. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining things. I was being manipulated. And it was time to stop reacting and start fighting back. I made a decision. I went to the police. But this time I didn't go as a grieving father. I went prepared. I showed them the recordings, the inconsistencies, the timeline, everything. At first they hesitated. But then one officer leaned forward. "This changes things," he said. That was all I needed. For the first time since Liam disappeared, someone believed me. But as I left the station, I saw Caleb's car parked across the street. He was watching me, waiting. When I got closer, he rolled down the window. "You should have stayed quiet," he said. I looked him in the eyes. "No, you should have." For the first time, he didn't look in control. But before I could say anything else, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. A message. Just 3 words. "I have your son." And everything escalated. My hands froze when I saw the message. "I have your son." No number. No name. Just those 4 words. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely think. I showed the police immediately. This time they didn't brush it off. The tone changed. The room shifted. "This confirms abduction," the officer said. "Confirms. Not a runaway. Not my fault. But Caleb?" He acted confused when I told him. "A message? Anyone could send that," he said. "Anyone." But I was watching him now, closely, and I noticed something. His reaction came too fast, too controlled, like he had already prepared for this moment. The police traced the message. It bounced through multiple numbers. Hard to track, but not impossible. "This was planned," the officer added. That word hit me. Planned. Which meant this wasn't random. This wasn't chaos. This was design. And someone close to me knew more than they were saying. That night I couldn't sleep again. But this time it wasn't fear keeping me awake. It was certainty. I wasn't chasing shadows anymore. I was getting closer. And whoever sent that message had just made their first mistake. The next message came as a voice note. My fingers trembled as I pressed play. It was Liam. Soft. Scared. Real. "Dad, I'm okay. Please don't worry." My chest tightened so hard I had to sit down. He was alive. Alive. But something was wrong. His voice sounded coached, like someone was standing right there, listening. "Did you hear anything in the background?" the officer asked. We replayed it. Again. And again. Then I heard it. A faint sound. A train. Not loud but steady. The officer looked at me. "That narrows it down." Hope flickered again. "But Caleb?" He stepped back. Quiet. Watching. Almost tense. "You're getting too emotional," he said suddenly. "You might mishear things." I turned to him slowly. "No. I'm finally hearing everything clearly." He didn't respond. But I saw it. For the first time. Cracks in his confidence. And that told me something important. We were getting close. Closer than he wanted. The police worked fast. Train routes. Timing. Sound patterns. They narrowed it down to an old industrial area outside the city. Abandoned warehouses. Quiet tracks. Few cameras. Perfect place to hide someone. "We're organizing a search," the officer said. But I didn't wait. I drove there myself. I had to. When I arrived, the place felt wrong. Too still. Too empty. But then, I saw something. a small shoe print in the dirt. My heart stopped. Liam's size. I followed it slowly, step by step, until I reached a locked building. And that's when I heard it. The faint sound. From inside. I stepped closer. Liam, I whispered. Silence. Then, a soft knock. From the other side of the door. My hands started shaking. I found him. I actually found him. But just as I reached for the handle, a voice behind me said, "I wouldn't do that." I turned slowly, and everything changed. A man stood behind me, tall, calm, watching. "Step away from the door," he said. My heart was racing. "Where is my son?" He tilted his head slightly. "Safe. For now." That wasn't enough. I lunged for the door, but he grabbed my arm. Not violently, just enough to stop me. "You don't understand what you're walking into," he said. "I don't care. That's my son." He studied me for a moment, then said something that didn't make sense. "You weren't supposed to find this place. Weren't supposed to? Who sent you?" I demanded. He hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. "Caleb," I said. His silence confirmed it. My chest burned with anger. "Why?" The man sighed. "I was paid to keep the boy safe." "Safe? That's kidnapping." "No," he said calmly. "That's protection." "Protection from who?" That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about taking Liam. This was about control. Control over me. Over everything. And Caleb was behind it all. The police arrived minutes later. The man didn't run. Didn't resist. He just stood there. Like he knew it was over. They opened the door. And there he was. Liam. Scared. Tired. But alive. The moment he saw me, "Dad!" I ran to him. Held him tighter than I ever had. "I'm here," I whispered. "I've got you." But even in that moment, something felt off. Liam pulled back slightly. "Uncle Caleb said you'd be mad," he said quietly. My heart dropped. Mad? For what? For finding out the truth. Truth? I looked at the officers, then back at Liam. What truth? He hesitated, then said something that shattered everything. He said you didn't really want me. The room went silent. That's when I understood. This wasn't just kidnapping. This was manipulation. Psychological, carefully planned, and deeply personal. Caleb didn't just want control. He wanted to replace me. Caleb was arrested that same night. He didn't fight it, didn't deny it. He just sat there, calm, like this was always going to happen. Why? I asked him. For the first time, he answered honestly. You had everything, he said. The family, the respect, the life I was supposed to have. I stared at him. This is about jealousy? It's about balance, he said. You didn't deserve it. My hands clenched. So you took my son? I protected him, he snapped. From you. That lie again. You turned everyone against me. They already doubted you, he said coldly. I just helped them see it. That hit hard. Because part of it was true. He didn't create the doubt. He used it. And Mom? I asked. He hesitated. Then said, she believed what she wanted to believe. That was worse. Because it meant she chose it. Chose him. Over me. And now, everything was about to fall apart. For them. I went to see my mother the next day. She looked broken. But I needed answers. You knew, I said. It wasn't a question. Tears filled her eyes. I didn't know everything, she whispered. But you knew enough. She didn't deny it. I thought he was helping, she said. No, you chose to believe that. She shook her head. I was scared for Liam. No, you were scared of the truth. That silence said everything. You let him take control, I added. You let him turn me into a suspect. I didn't think it would go this far. But it did. And she let it happen. That was the reality. That was the cost. I needed you, I said quietly. She broke down. But it was too late. Because some things don't come back. And trust was one of them. The investigation moved fast after that. Evidence, messages, payments, everything pointed to Caleb. Planned, detailed, intentional. The charges were serious. Kidnapping, manipulation, obstruction. He wasn't getting out of this. And for the first time in weeks, I could breathe. Liam was home, safe, healing. But so was I, because I wasn't the same man anymore. I wasn't the one who let others speak for me, or define me, or control the narrative. I had fought back, and I had won. But there was still one thing left. The truth. Everyone needed to hear it. Not just the police. Not just the court. Everyone. The story spread quickly. News, social media, community. Everyone who once doubted me now knew the truth. The same people who whispered before were silent now, or apologizing. But I didn't need apologies. I needed closure. And I got it. Because the narrative had changed. Completely. I wasn't the suspect anymore. I was the father who never gave up. And Caleb? He was exposed. Fully. Publicly. And there was no coming back from that. Caleb lost everything. His reputation. His job. His relationships. Everything he tried to build collapsed. Because it was all based on control. On lies. And lies don't last. Even my mother couldn't defend him anymore. She had no one left to stand behind. Because the truth doesn't leave room for excuses. And in the end, he was alone. Exactly where his choices led him. I didn't just get my son back. I got something more. Clarity. Strength. Boundaries. Liam and I started over. Slowly. Honestly. No lies. No manipulation. Just truth. And that made everything stronger. Because real family doesn't control you. Protects you. If you're watching this, I need you to hear this. Sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones closest to you. And the hardest truth? They don't always look like villains. They look like family. But here's what I learned. Trust your instincts. Speak up when something feels wrong. Don't let anyone control your story. Because silence is where manipulation grows. And truth always finds a way out. I got my son back. But more importantly, I found my voice. So if you've ever been doubted, if you've ever been blamed unfairly, if you've ever felt alone, don't give up. Because the truth will always be stronger than lies. And when it comes out, it doesn't just set you free. It changes everything. If this story hit you, comment, "Truth always wins." Would you have trusted your brother? Let me know below. Share this with someone who needs to hear this.